You're watching Reality Check. The dates for the elections are out, and as expected, 1,000 theories have bloomed on who's ahead and who's behind. Well, as we know, elections are a mix of tangible indicators like data and facts and numbers, but also intangibles, the so-called election hawa. But from time to time, we have to pause the political rhetoric and bring in the experts to take a cool-headed, hyperbole-free look at the prospects of our main contenders. The simple premise really is, can the BJP repeat or come close to repeating the magic of 2014? For which we first need to understand what happened in 2014 and what has happened since. I have a number of slides, a number of graphics, but I'm just going to put up the basic ones before I go to a very high-powered panel. So remember, 2014 is what some pollsters called a black swan moment, in the sense that this was a very rare moment politically. And that's why, if you look at the map, what has happened essentially is that the NDA won 90% of what is called broadly the Hindi belt, which is the north and west of India. 11 states, UP, Bihar, Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh, Gujarat, Rajasthan, Jharkhand, Punjab, Chhattisgarh, Haryana, Delhi and so on. But they only won 23% of the seats in the non-Hindi belt, which is sort of broadly the south and east. Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Kerala, Assam and so on and so forth. But just by having a 90% strike rate in roughly 60% of the country, or 60% of the Lok Sabha, they managed to win the elections. The number two takeaway from 2014 is that the BJP did very well when it goes head-to-head with the Congress. It has a strike rate of 90%. So BJP versus Congress in about 190 seats, of which the BJP won 166 seats with a strike rate of 90%. The BJP doesn't do that well when it was up against regional parties. So that was what happened in 2014. What has happened since? There's a lot of data to try and tell you the story of what has happened since, but let's just go very simply to the CSDS data, the Lokniti, CSDS, ABP, Mood of the Nation survey, which has been there since May 2017. And there you get some sort of an idea of what's been happening. So in May, BJP was at about 40% in terms of the mood of the nation, the popularity, I suspect. Then it fell to 34% in January of 2018. And the last survey of May 2018 showed the BJP was down to 32%. And that's all the data that we have. Sanjay Kumar of CSDS is here. Sir, is that broadly correct? Was there anything?
Yes.
That was the last mood of the nation.
Yes, broadly correct poll. Presentation of data. We don't know whether it was correct or not.
That's what I meant. Broadly correct as far as the presentation of data is concerned. Okay. So, so we've got a great team of poll pundits here with us. Sanjay Kumar, of course, I already introduced, the Director CSDS, who's been doing those fabulous, mood of the nation polls with Lokniti, is here with us. And also Gilles Vernier, who's Assistant Professor in Political Science at Ashoka University at the Trivedi Center for Political Data. Praveen Chakravarti, who's head of the data analytics in the Congress Party. And Rajneel Kamath, who's co-founder R2D2 Technologies and has worked with the BJP in the past, but is now, he says, politically neutral. All right, okay. Let me just start with you, Sanjay Kumar. So, broadly, that was, as you saw, the premise, right? That 2014 was a black swan moment or election. I think that's the phrase which actually Praveen coined. I suspect this was, I think this was before Praveen, crossed over into the Congress camp. But this is was his premise, and that's where we were then. And the question is whether it can be replicated. Praveen has, of course, argued that it cannot be replicated, and so at some point he'd run a piece saying that Modi is increasingly looking like a one-term prime minister. And your, poll tracker shows that there has been a bit of a decline.
Yes.
But do you think that the decline is enough to suggest that Modi will be a one-term prime minister, or is that not a correct conjecture, especially after now the Balakot?
2 points broadly. One, can BJP repeat its performance of 2014 in 2019?
Right.
And if we look at the Hindi heartland state where they performed excellent,
Yeah.
I have no doubt they cannot repeat that performance.
Right.
But at the same time, though there is some decline in popularity of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, that's not enough to not allow Modi a second term as the Prime Minister. My own opinion is that NDA will come to power. It's only a question of how many seats, what is the number of tally for BJP, and Modi is going to be a second term Prime Minister, which India is going to have after May 2019.
Right. So that you're saying that, I mean, we're very clear about that. Yeah, that's
absolutely clear.
You don't have any doubt about that.
No ifs and buts. Yeah.
Okay, and you're saying that is borne out by even your own poll findings, even though they're showing a decline. You're saying the decline is not sharp enough.
Even though there is a decline, it's not sharp enough to not allow BJP have a second term, not allow NDA a second term.
Okay.
It's only disenchantment. I keep saying you need an anger to defeat BJP in 2019. That anger is missing.
Okay. Wow. All right. At least we have one of our poll pundits who's already committed to an outcome for 2019. Gilles, if I can just bring you in. So, the sort of the downside or the negative for the BJP was the fact that there was a slide, there was a slip in popularity. Sanjay Kumar says that's not enough. But some are also pointing out to the fact that there is an upside, which is the fact that the BJP also has a buffer. I don't know if we can have that graphic up on the screen, where the BJP actually had a pretty large percentage of seats where they got over 1.5 lakh votes. So they already were coming in with quite a strong buffer. But again, do you see that as being substantial enough to try and sort of prevent an outright defeat? Or do you think that they may be in greater trouble than what Sanjay Kumar believes?
Well, I would not be as categorical as Sanjay is. I've burned myself too many times at the game of prediction, so maybe I'm not the right person to ask that question. And as you said in your introduction,
I mean, you're free to predict, but I'm not insisting on it.
As you said in your introduction, there are too many imponderables. Obviously, 2014 was an unusual election, an extraordinary performance. BJP increasing its vote share by on average, 10% across the Hindi belt was, a fairly new phenomena. And I agree with Sanjay that they're not going to repeat this performance simply because the circumstances that created that performance are no longer there. The BJP has been in power for 4 years. The strong rejection against the Congress party is no longer there. We maybe can talk about Congress revival or not, a bit later. But the victory of the BJP was, the BJP was propelled to a majority by the collapse of the Congress party. What we've seen in recent state elections is that a modest increase in vote share of the Congress and a relatively modest decrease of the BJP created large swings in terms of vote. Right, disproportionality effect of the electoral system. Small numbers have large consequences, but as a consequence, the results are, unpredictable. So many seats, being won with small margins.
Right.
My stand at the moment is that you have too many imponderables or intangibles, as you call them. Alliances are not yet fully formed. There's no clarity yet on how the SP-BSP alliance in UP will perform. We don't know how many incumbent MPs are going to rerun. The PM had not taken the lead in those state campaigns in recent elections. So that's too many imponderables that prevents us from having clarity on the outcome.
Okay, so you're hedging your bets a little more there. But Praveen, now, we're trying as much as possible to avoid rhetoric and stick as much as possible to facts and to data. So now tell me, obviously you would have a different view than Sanjay Kumar, but back that up with what you've been finding, because as I understand it, you would be polling and you would be doing your own surveys. And what is that telling you? Are you seeing the BJP's decline continue? Do you see since the airstrikes, has there been any kind of uptick for them? As some of these recent, we just had a bunch of polls, in fact, in the past 24 hours, as they seem to suggest. What are you hearing and seeing?
Yeah, Srinivasan, I agree to join your show only because you promised there will be no rhetoric, and I will stick to that bargain from my side as well.
Absolutely.
See, I first want to take a step back and caution everybody about the prediction business in India, in the election business. And I will back this up in terms of what does prediction accuracy mean in Indian elections. I took exit polls of 5 major survey agencies that were put out since 2014 of 15 state elections.
Okay.
Remember, these are exit polls. Exit polls are generally easier to predict than pre-polls.
Right.
Okay. So I had 110 anyone. You know what the finding is?
Yes.
85% of the time they are way off the mark.
Okay.
And this is an exit poll, and this is an exit poll for just one state election.
Right.
Now we are talking about an all India general election.
Okay.
To do pre-polls, I think anyone that says that they can predict seats, even with a range,
Right.
I would be extremely circumspect about that. And I'm not casting aspersions on anyone.
Right.
I'm merely suggesting that it's become extraordinarily difficult to predict seats.
Okay, that
especially
said.
seats.
Okay.
Because what is going on? It is my belief that
Yes.
the 2000
Go ahead.
it is my
Go ahead.
belief that the 2019 elections will be not one general election, not 29 state elections, but 543 independent elections.
Okay.
Which means it makes it very, very, very hard to predict seats. And as Giles pointed out, a small swings in vote shares can lead to dramatic swings in seats.
Okay.
So I think we should all be very, very cautious. And I would urge all your viewers to actually take any predictions with bags and bags of salt.
Okay.
That's
said,
the main point that I wanted to make.
That said. Now, that
Having said that, this is going to be 543 elections.
Praveen, okay. That said, now tell us, again, I'm not asking you for predictions. I'm simply asking you, what is your own, whatever you want to call it, surveying, polling, whatever you want to call it, what is that telling you? Are you seeing, as I said again, that anecdotally and as some surveys seem to suggest, that there is a reason for the BJP to feel thrilled about, the sort of public mood after the Balakot strikes? Are you seeing no change? What are you seeing and hearing?
Okay. See, we poll continuously, and we poll large samples. Our samples run into a few lakhs,
Okay.
Mainly across the large states. And I've been polling continuously, and being an empirical scientist, it's stratified, it's randomized, all of those sampling techniques we follow. Essentially, if your question is, have the recent military action
Yes.
been propelling a change in voter behavior
Yes.
for the BJP? The answer, at least as far as my findings are, is a categorical no. Remember, I am underlining the phrase change in voter behavior.
Okay.
It is very different to ask a question, are you happy with the terror strike? Are you happy with the military strikes
Right.
that India is indulged in?
Right.
Versus immediately you ask the question, do you think this is getting politicized? The answer then immediately becomes overwhelming yes. Then you ask the question, who is politicizing it? The answer is an overwhelming, the ruling dispensation. Then they ask the question, do you like it or should this be politicized? More than 3/4 of my respondents say it should not be politicized.
Okay.
And when it comes to change in voting behavior propelled by this, the answer is a very clear no.
When you see a very clear, what does that mean in terms of the percentage terms of who people you're polling? Are you talking about a large percentage of people saying that?
Less than 7% of people say that this will make them change their voting behavior in favor of the ruling party, and this 7% is well within the margin of error in my sample, and that is what I mean by saying that voting behavior impact. I think it is we should be careful not to exaggerate the impact on voting behavior.
All right. Okay. I want to just quickly get Sanjay Kumar to respond to you, and then I'm going to go across to Rajneet. Yes.
Though Praveen had raised several issues.
Yes.
One is about a small change in vote percentages will makes huge change in seats. Yes, that happens, but you also have to consider the base of the two parties. When I say the vote share, Congress is lying so low. Even if you increase 7-8% vote, you will only be able to manage. You will only be able to manage double the seats you managed to win in 2014.
Right.
So you may easily go up to 88, 85. Crossing 100 seems very difficult for the Congress. BJP is, sitting with a vote share which is very high, 31%, and those votes are concentrated. Even in this Hindi heartland, if BJP's vote share goes down, which is likely to happen, 2, 3, 4%, they will not lose too many seats. That's one thing I thought I should make my point on why.
And on his point about having
and the second thing
about prediction.
And second thing about I think Praveen would agree that pre-poll estimates the mood of the people when the poll is done. If somebody is saying we have done a poll right now and this is going to be the result, I think he is making a claim which he should not be making.
Right.
Exit poll, yes. Exit poll, there is no change after you have already cast your vote. You have asked the people whom have you voted. If exit poll are going wrong, then Praveen has all the reasons to think that.
And lastly, and this last quick point, I want to get you to respond to what he was saying about the fact that his own polling is not showing.
Sanjay,
just 1 second, Praveen.
Yeah.
The last point about the fact that his own polling is not showing a substantial gain for the BJP after Balakot. Does that surprise you? Or?
Yeah. No, it doesn't surprise me to a great extent. I am sure if he disaggregates it with level of locality in the urban, small town and villages, he would find some differences, and I would pick up from where he ended. He said only 7%, less than 7% people said it can change their voting preference in favor of BJP, and there is an error of margin.
Right.
Even these 7% people are not willing to change, and we still know from the past polls from various other agencies, BJP is still sitting very high with vote percentages.
Okay. All right. Rajneet, now, one of the interesting things about this election is, of course, yes, sorry, Praveen, you wanted to quickly come in?
Yeah, just 2 points, Sanjay. Sanjay, on your point about exit polls, I actually do have the data, and I'm happy to share the raw data of all the agencies across 15 states.
I have no disagreement on that.
Is less than 15%.
Yeah.
85% of the time, the predictions are wrong.
Yeah.
And I'm, like I said, I'm not casting aspersions. It's just become extraordinarily difficult.
Right.
The second is, when I say 7% change, remember, there is already a big swing against. When I said Black Swan.
Yes. Okay, sorry. Slight audio issue there. We'll just come back to Praveen in just a second.
Everybody agrees that that trend is coming
Are
down.
you back? Go ahead.
So you have to place the 7% in the context of that swing against BJP.
Okay. Rajni, now, looking at the fact that you're going to have a very large number of young voters once again entering the fray, I think that's also one area you look at as somebody who's working in social media. So, the Indian Express did some number crunching. I won't get into the details here, but they said in 282 seats, the average number of first-time voters were more than the winning margin. Okay, this is Indian Express analysis, so that's on them. In the past, and Sanjay Kumar, correct me if I'm wrong, it appeared that BJP generally was the beneficiary of first-time voters. They had an advantage there.
In 2014, yes.
In 2014. What's your sense of that, of the younger voter, the first-time voter? Are they still inclined towards the BJP, or has there been some change there?
Yeah, I mean, just to put that in perspective, from an electorate of 900 million, we have 550 million who are online, which is about 60% of your population, and 15 million people are first-time voters as compared to 23 million the previous time, right?
These 15 million are between the age of 18 to 19.
First-time voters, yeah, 18 and 19.
Right.
These are people who've grown up with smartphones, they've grown up with YouTube, they've grown up with Facebook, a lot of their education has happened on WhatsApp, and the BJP has obviously had a head start when it comes to using digital media. Most opposition parties, including the Congress, have been a little late to the game. It was only recently that even Office of RG became RG. Right? And this is where I feel the battle is going to be online. And even now, the BJP is far ahead of everyone else. Not to say that others haven't caught up, but just in sheer scale and volume, the BJP is far, far ahead, and they're able to make an impact. If you look at pre-Balakot and post-Balakot, there's a conversation shift in groups. There's a very, very evident conversation shift. And what would have earlier been jokes about BJP, about the Prime Minister, about leaders, has now moved to a sense of pride and a sense of happiness.
So there has been, you're saying, somewhat of a shift, at least in terms of chatter, in terms of the social media conversation. Praveen, of course, says that may not have tangibly manifested itself on the ground. But I just want to ask you, Gilles, about, now just looking at alliances and looking at this whole business of the Congress, whether it is going to be, and I just want to focus on Uttar Pradesh because if we make it too broad, we won't have enough time. But this question about Uttar Pradesh and whether the Congress is going to be a spoiler or will it actually be a force multiplier for the Gathbandhan, just based again on available data, what does that really look like?
So, I mean, as an impartial observer, I cannot understand why the Congress party is not part of the SP-BSP alliances. I mean, formally. The data that we have suggests that a Congress performance, even modest, in UP would rather dent the vote base of the alliance rather than the BJP. There are papers on the 2014 elections and subsequent elections that show that you have very little transfer of votes between Congress and BJP. So it's who's moving around that actually matter more. And the noise I hear from the ground indicates that the Congress is considering giving a lot of tickets to either defectors or people who are going to not get a ticket within the alliance because of the seat sharing agreements, which can only enhance that denting effect into the alliance base. So the performance of the Congress is going to be below modest in UP because I see absolutely no sign or trace of revival in that particular state for the Congress party. Apologies, Praveen. But they can have a nuisance effect for the alliance. That for me is very, very clear.
Sorry, what? I just missed the last part. Are they going to?
They can have a nuisance effect.
A nuisance effect
on the alliances and the alliance, and for me that's very, very clear.
Oh, they're going to have a nuisance effect. So this is our graphic, which we've done a projection where. So the first, what you're seeing is the sort of first column or section is the actual position of 2014. Had the BSP, SP, if they come together as they have, they would have gone up to 41. BJP would have fallen to 37. And if all three had come together, the projection was that they would get 56. Congress, BSP and SP and the BJP would have been down to 24. Anyway, let Praveen respond to that. Praveen, what's your take on UP?
Okay, see, I think I can say with certain confidence that in the Congress party we do understand a multi-party first past the post electoral math of India and UP for sure. So I hear all the points, and I certainly think they are some of them are valid. Having said that, I go back to what I said in my opening remarks. See, it's quite I think inaccurate to look at all of these in aggregate forms. I said the 2019 election will be 543 election. Similarly, there is nothing called a UP election. There are 80 seat elections in UP. I think this notion that the three can come together and the arithmetic can add up across UP is, I find, through my empirical work, a bit far-fetched. What I think, what is required is a seat-by-seat strategy, which is exactly what we're doing in the Congress party as far as UP is not just UP, but across the country. So it will be a seat-by-seat strategy. And like I said, I think we have to really kind of be very cautious in just doing simple arithmetic. There is something
Praveen,
called a big leakage factor when we have alliances.
Yeah.
And I'm not quite.
No, I want to quickly ask you that if you're saying seat by seat strategy.
No, I'm saying I'm not where I disagree with my friend Giles.
Yes. Yes, go ahead.
Is that there is no vote transfer between the BJP and the Congress. I think between 2009 and 2014, even accounting for whatever the national wave or whatever that may have been, there was a very, very clear and evident vote transfer between the Congress and the BJP in Uttar Pradesh. So I do think there is a strong, very, very strong overlap there.
Okay. Last word from you about Uttar Pradesh. Do you agree with Praveen, both for UP and across the country, that it is going to be a very disaggregated election? Or at some level, does Modi become a kind of unified? Will he be able to nationalize it?
So a more disaggregated election goes to the advantage of Congress and the regional party, and a national mood goes, if an election is fought on the national issues, it goes to the advantage of BJP. But on the issue of disaggregated election, I know Praveen does a lot of data crunching, and he would know that Congress has been number 2 in almost 235, 236 seats in 2014. That can only give them satisfaction. But if you look at how far they have been from number 1 and number 2 in all these constituency, and why I say Congress, yes, if you look at 10% vote, Congress trails behind nearest winner by 10% votes only in 60 constituency. Rest all is beyond 10%.
Right.
Even a disaggregate analysis suggests that Congress needs 10-12% swing in order to cross 100 seats.
Okay. So the gap is huge. The gap is huge.
Sanjay, I completely take your point, but that's exactly.
Yes, quickly, Praveen. We're out of time.
But that's exactly why I measure what's called an anger index against the BJP in every seat. And I've been doing this for the last 8 or 9 months. So we are extremely cognizant of that. We did that before the Vidhan Sabha elections. In Madhya Pradesh, it was exactly the case. The gap between the Congress and the BJP in the previous Vidhan Sabha or the Lok Sabha election was very high. But we kept measuring the anger, and we knew exactly where to focus and turn that election.
Okay. All right. Well, let's see how it plays out. But gentlemen, it was fascinating. Thank you so much for joining us. That's it on Reality Check. Thanks so much for watching. Good night.